welcome in to another video recap of Michigan State football from State News Football Raiders. I'm Joe Dandron, Eli McKown. Eli, hard to explain this one. Michigan State beats, in the college football playoff rankings, number 8 Northwestern, 29-20 at Spartans Stadium over the weekend. And Eli, you are at the stadium. I'm chilling at home. So what a game. What a game. And, really, Northwestern's offense, which had less than 300 total yards of offense, and I think had 4 turnovers at the end of the game, the last one coming in the final seconds on the fumble recovered by Kalen Gervin. Just hard to explain in some ways, but also Northwestern's offense showed the weaknesses that a lot of people thought it might have. And, Shakur Brown, 2 interceptions. Rocky Lombardi returns to the starting quarterback role, plays the entire game, doesn't do too much, doesn't do a ton. It's an interesting game, but Michigan State gets it done and wins 29-20.
Yeah, who would have thought that if this team doesn't, lose the turnover battle by a huge margin, that they'd maybe have a lot closer of a game, and not score, 7 points in 2 games. That's the difference. You look at this game, Peyton Ramsey throws, he throws 2 interceptions, I think, both to Shakur Brown. The one by Xavier Henderson gets dropped there at the end, and then there's the fumble as well after the Rocky Lombardi interception. And that, and then the surprising thing, this is a really good Northwestern defense. And talking with Andrew Golden of the Daily Northwestern, he talked about how great this front 7 was. And Michigan State controlled that front 7 and ran for nearly 200 yards. I think it was 195. Yeah. It was a game that, it comes out. Michigan State gets that first really big play to Jalen Naylor. They're up 7-0. They're able to get another huge 4th down stop, get another field goal. And then they're able, off the Shakur Brown interception, they're able to drive down and score on the legs of Rocky Lombardi and Connor Hayward. And they're up 17-0, and you're thinking, what's actually happening here? Seems like Northwestern's going to come back, but this team shows a lot of fight, shows a lot of effort, and they end up pulling out the win in this one. It was about the line of scrimmage. They controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They got pressure on Peyton Ramsey. I think Drew Beasley had 2 sacks on his own. They were able to run for 195 yards. Rocky Lombardi only has the 1 interception that they were able to get right back off the fumble. That's the game. And they were able to not turn the ball over, be productive on offense, keep the offense on the field, keep the defense, get them some rest for once. That was the game. And it was surprising. No one saw it coming, but when you play like that, good things happen.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, Eli. And that was the crazy thing to me. Rocky Lombardi, and I wrote this in one of the stories I did in the game that day. Rocky Lombardi was directly responsible for 9 of MSU's 17 first downs. He had 5 completions for first downs, and he had 4 runs for first downs. I think it actually might have been the other way around. He had 4 completions and 5 runs. So he was getting it done with his legs. He had 65 total rushing yards himself. And the offense averaged 5 yards to carry just about. And Hayward had almost 100 rushing yards, really his best game since, I think, Maryland in 2018. Yeah. That game on Saturday was, one that to me is just hard to explain. Even when you were watching it, you just were so surprised. Because you talk about that Northwestern front 7, that front 4 is one of the best in the Big Ten. And that linebacking group with Patty Fisher and Blake Gallagher might be the best group of linebackers in the country. When everything's all said and done at the end of the year, both those guys are among the most consistent and best linebackers in the country, defending the pass, getting to the quarterback, defending the run. And those guys are all-around players who both will probably play the NFL. But I thought that the defensive secondary for Michigan State did a great job of controlling the game and really imposing their will on Peyton Ramsey and getting big plays when they needed to. Michigan State's defense has done that all year. They had created turnovers, but they had been so consistently put in bad positions by an offense. It was as soon as that interception happened by Lombardi, his only turnover of the game, they got it right back. And that completely saved the momentum. In my opinion, that moment right there was really what changed and dictated the rest of that game. And Matt Coughlin also to nail I think a 49-yarder and a 44-yarder. Yeah. One to put them at 20 points and tie the game, the other to take the lead. I mean, he proved that he might be able to kick in the NFL just off that game. Obviously he's had a 50-yard earlier this year, but he proved he's got some range. And for them to be able to depend on Coughlin in big moments like that, I thought was big. And you need to be able to do that. Not many programs in the country have kickers they can depend on in games like that. So, yeah, I mean, and Eli, I guess, too, just Shakur Brown with 2 interceptions. I mean, what did he show you?
Shakur Brown and that secondary played. I mean, coming into the season, I felt like that secondary might have some of the most depth and some of the most talent, but maybe we're a year away from being this good. And they came in and showed against. I mean, this is a Northwestern passing attack that's not tremendous. They usually Peyton Ramsey, unless he did in that game, which I'm not 100% sure. He had a couple throws that might have been close. Hadn't completed like a single pass for over 25 yards. He may have gotten one in this game. I'm not 100% sure on that. But this is not an electric passing attack. But Shakur Brown and Angelo Gross as a true freshman, I mean, he was popping guys. He was rushing the quarterback, playing tremendous coverage, breaking up balls. Dominique Long had a good game. This secondary really came together, had a really great game. Forced Northwestern kind of be one-dimensional, running the ball a little bit, and that was huge. Shakur Brown is a legitimate playmaker, and then he wasn't healthy last year. I think he only plays 5 or 6 games last year, and then he comes back this year, and he's been a star. I mean, he has been an absolute star of that defense. He's probably been, outside of maybe Antoine Simmons, the best player on this defense so far this season.
Yeah, and with his 2 interceptions on Saturday, he tied the lead for the most of the Big Ten with Brandon Joseph of Northwestern, actually. Safety for Northwestern. And that proved to me that this guy can play. I mean, he was doing it in man coverage, especially in man coverage. He is a ball hawk. Because we saw the interception on the end zone where he jumped the route in man coverage against Indiana. And then he has that great physical interception, which, obviously all of our thoughts are with Northwestern's receiver who hit the ground after that and had to be carted off the field. But, yeah, and that was a scary moment in that game. I haven't seen any updates on that player's status, but, obviously wishing him the best. And so, and Shakur Brown having 2 interceptions I thought was extremely impressive. Xavier Henderson had a very good game, but Angelo Gross was a guy who was like, wow, like this kid is going to be a guy the next coming years, especially if he's able to be with Harlan Barnett, who has a history of developing guys like Josiah Scott. Like, he was there when Josiah Scott, who was now in the NFL, was there. Obviously Darqueze Dennard, Trey Waynes, he's a history of developing guys who tend to be underrated. And I think that Gross can be someone like that, and also the front 7 as well got a lot of push at the line of scrimmage. Something that I didn't expect to see. Deshaun Mallory, Michael Fletcher, both guys who were consistently. Drew Beasley had a wonderful game, 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. He was consistently getting after the quarterback. So, I mean, in all intents and purposes, a surprising game. Michigan State's defense stepping up in a big way. We're trying to keep these videos a little shorter, so we're going to cut this one in a second here. But, Eli, just, very interesting game. Michigan State wins 29-20. I think it's going to do it for us. Like I said, we'll be back with another recap after Michigan State faces off with Ohio State on December 5th. So, Joe Dandron, Eli McKown, we're with State News.